The Waratahs versus the Chefs. This is a home game that you and I will be heading out to on Friday night as well. The Waratahs are going to be playing their under-20 side because they don't have any players left. New injuries in this one. You got Charlie Gamble partially dislocated his shoulder on the weekend, so he'll be out for probably 6 weeks, 4 weeks. Lalakai Feketi had a shoulder injury, didn't return at halftime. Not sure how severe that is yet. Tane Edmed came off with a back injury, so we're not sure. Again, the severity, it could easily be one that he's back, but probably on the bench if anything. Masesi Tuapolotu, the reserve centre, had a grade 1 MCL, so they're saying considering they have a round 7 bye, he won't be back until round 8. Langy Gleeson may be out with a knee injury. Max Jorgensen still nursing that sore shoulder, may be out, but I'd say he'll probably play. And then the Money Nandolo also nursing a knee injury, came off with 20 to go, so he's at risk as well. For the Chiefs, the only one I think was Josh Ioana, who missed the game for personal reasons. So you would have to think that he's likely to be back in the fold for the 23 this week. It'll be interesting to see if Mackenzie needs to have his rest week again, in which case maybe Ioana can get some game time. But I know there's some leniency apparently in the All Blacks rest weeks, and maybe the fact that it was a late call-up and he played less than 10 minutes, maybe they'll count it anyway.
Yeah, I have a bit of a gut feeling that they're going to count that as a rest week as well, with Tokiaho on the bench, and just go, yeah, no, they didn't start, they count, which is a bit rough. But
they did say preseason that if you played 1 minute, it's not a rest week.
Did they?
Yeah, 100%. There was black and white. But, we'll see. The Waratahs have also got Parecki expected back from his infection. That's cost him 2 weeks. Jed Holloway, congratulations, I believe, are in order. He had a baby, or his missus had a baby, rather, last week. So he had the week off as part of his Wallabies rest week. Will Harrison's touch and go, I think, for his toe injury. So it'll be a big in for them if they can get him at fullback. And maybe we'll decide if Jorgo has to play. Peach is back with his quad tear, they expect, and Joey Walton as well, finally getting a start back when they need him at the moment, I think, with the damage that they've done in their centres. He's the perfect inside centre just to slide straight in, I would think. And on the Chiefs side, you got Brady Weber, Sam Cane, Brady Retallick, all coming back from their rest weeks as well.
Have we seen if Holloway's had a boy or a girl?
I think they're letting the baby decide when it turns 18.
Oh. Topical.
No, I should say I made that up.
Definitely. It's a matter for national interest. So I was just wondering.
Well, mate, these days it doesn't matter. We're putting them in the Wallabies or the Wallaroos. I'm fine with it either way.
That's true. That is true. But look, yeah, the Waratahs are once again the underdog, something they're used to after last year. And, hasn't worked in favour of them the start of the year not being underdogs. So they're back. They're well and truly underdogs. But the difference is things aren't clicking for them this year. So it's a bit deeper than if they're underdogs or not. I know I liked seeing Jorgensen at 15. The amount of talk on social media saying, don't do it to this poor young bloke, it's Windy Wellington. Don't push this guy to 15. They didn't want to give this guy a chance there. Fair enough. But geez, he stepped up. He's tried that he got and put that ball down, and he played well in difficult situation. I think there's a very good chance we see him at 15 again this week.
Yeah, I thought he injured his shoulder in that dive. His shoulder or his wrist. He was holding it the entire first half. At one point he made a break, and rather than give the easy right to left, he took his left hand off the ball and just kind of lobbed the ball with his right because he was clearly so uncomfortable. So I think he's definitely nursing an injury there. So I think that's the biggest question mark over it. But I also think he was a little bit lucky. He didn't really get tested under the high ball, which surprised me. I thought that was a tactical error from the Hurricanes as well.
Yeah, and surely you go high ball with the pressure, young 15 with that wind swirling around. But geez, you could kick to the left side of the field and would have ended up out on the right. So I think maybe that was something they were a little bit nervous about as well. I think, did you touch on maybe we get Will Harrison back? Where do we think he is? Because if he is back, he has got to be on the bench and he has to be an option for 15. I know we're questioning whether Edmund's back, who's going to fill that 12 jersey. But if Will Harrison is back, we need to see him playing because he's trialled, hasn't he? Yeah, no, he's played for the Waratahs development team.
Yeah, he played a couple of weeks ago and he injured his toe and he was meant to be out for 1 to 3 weeks. So he missed last week. And then I think it's this week or next week. He's got a touch and go at the moment.
He's back. Let's just count him back. We need him severely in this lineup. And Nadolo did really, really well, I think, for his role last week. But he is still very large and very old.
I suspect he's going to be asking for a rest, man. I don't think they're going to need to drop him. I think he's going to ask for a week off.
I think you're right. So hopefully we see Peach coming into that wing there. The other question mark, I think, is who plays 12, Harry? Do they shift Edmund in if he is available to play 12? Something we've spitballed as a 10-12 Dono Edmund could work, or do they rush Joey Walton after missing such a long period of time back into that starting side? Because if Fiketti's gone, Tuipulotu looked promising, but he's gone as well.
Yeah, I think it just depends about Will Harrison. I think if Will Harrison starts at fullback, then probably Tane Edmed's out of the squad. And if he's not starting or if he's on the bench, then I think they'll probably start with Edmed at 12 and use the dual playmaker that way. Like you said, Walton just so short on game time over the last few years.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. There's going to be a big key battle, I think, in the breakdown between these two sides. Kane and Hooper, real leaders, very, very good open sides, but neither, I'd say, on fine form. The Tars have really bulked up in the preseason before they realised the game this year was more about speed than bulk. So it hasn't really worked for them. But they're going to really have to work hard and improve their speed to the breakdown. They need to slow down fast ball from the Chiefs. Good thing if D-Mac is missing, but geez, there are some threats around the paddock for the Chiefs. But how do you think this back row shapes up for the Tars? Or what are our options?
I think, well, you're going to have Holloway and I wouldn't mind if Gleeson is out if they went Holloway and Taleni Sue at locks, shift Hannigan to 6 and then go Hooper and Harris as the 6, 7, 8. But it wouldn't surprise me if Hannigan stays in lock and they play Swinton and Harris. They do seem to have a preference of picking Swinton at the moment whenever he's fit and available.
Yeah, he just hasn't necessarily brought what we thought he would, but it's a tough choice between those two. But I'd be leaning towards Hannigan at back row unless they're really worried about that disrupting, the role that he's playing. I don't see that.
I worry about going all your big players in Swinton and Harris and not having the versatility or the agility to keep up with the Chiefs, to be honest.
They need the speed around the paddock. 100% they need the speed around the paddock. I love Swinton, but between him and Harris, I think there's something missing there. And geez, I love Harris as well, but he has lost that battle with Gleeson significantly at the moment for me because his work rate isn't there. He's bulked up. We were excited by that, but we know his work rate wasn't as high as we kind of expected last year as well. So I really hope he takes this chance to step up into that number 8 role and takes this game by the horns.
Yeah. With McMillan, I think he was talking about potentially just rotating his squad a little bit because he mentioned that there is a bit of tiredness in the side. So obviously Takaaho was off the bench, so we would think that he'll be back starting this week. They'll bring a lot of their All Blacks back as well. But still some question marks over how they actually run their entire team out. Nankerville, Jacobson's had a couple of big weeks. Peter Gus has had a few rests and maybe not as much for him, but there's definitely a few players there that are still due a rest, and I think they'll fancy themselves enough to keep trying to rotate the squad around.
Yeah, I mean, they rotated a fair bit against the Rebels, and although the Rebels have been looking solid, they still managed to get that win. I think realistically, the Tars look like less of a threat than the Rebels at the moment. But yeah, if we see Retallick come in, Kane come in, Weber come in, I think that's some significant improvements for them as well. Depending on what happens with DMAC, the outside or the back 3 of Narrower, who's finally found some, probably found himself on that wing in some really good form. Nana Saturo, Shooter Stevenson at fullback. That is a really scary back 3. So as a Waratahs fan, I hope D-Mac is not available and he's been forced to have a rest week, because not only is he dynamic, he's thrown some beautiful cutouts and wide balls to access these guys in space. So I'm really hoping that they're missing a couple of players.
I mean, even if they put Josh Shawan at 10, mate, just the last, if I, as a Waratahs fan, I'm just praying they play Gatland at 10. It's our only hope at the moment.
Yeah, geez, I think you're fair. Look, the Chiefs set piece, it's been a real weapon for them. Maybe not so much in that first matchup against the Crusaders. But I think the Tars, with the changes that we've seen, especially in the top 5, but now as well, throwing in the back row throughout this first month of Super Rugby, it's going to be a real challenge for them. HJH back in at that, tight head prop role really helps. I think Lambert's very good, but he's no Bell. There's question marks around the second row and what that's going to look like. For me, I'm a little bit concerned about the Chiefs' I think ability to bring phases together, build tension against the Tars, and using that set piece as something to build off throughout this match.
You're concerned as in you think they're going to look really dangerous?
I think so. Yeah, I think they'll be able to put phase after phase together and use their set piece as something to kind of push themselves up the field.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really seeing any part of the game where the Waratahs can bully the Chiefs, which is probably the most worrying thing here. The line, actually, Nels, tell me. I won't give you any hints. What's your pick, and by how many?
As a really solid Waratahs fan, I'd love to be generous to the Waratahs and say the Chiefs are going to win by 12.
12, nice. All right, the line is 15. I was thinking Chiefs by about 12 as well. I've gone Chiefs by 14. I think that a couple of scores, it won't be too close, probably similar to what we saw against the Hurricanes last week for the Tars, another loss. And hopefully the crowd gets out there and actually tries to make something of it.
We'll be there.
Pushing on, we will. You better believe it.